Hi, Maureen and Meg. I've always been very close with my mom. My dad was extremely abusive to my sister and me, and I always felt protected by our mom. Um, After having our own kids, we have four, my sister has three. We've realized that maybe my mom wasn't as protective as we thought. It's been really hard to sort out the realization that we would never allow our kids to grow up the way we did. To this day, my mom's entire life is focused solely on keeping my dad from exploding. I cannot help but feel resentment towards her, especially since she is totally dismissive regarding any discussions about his behavior. She has made it clear that if we can't put up with him, we don't get to have a relationship with her. I would love to hear Meg's thoughts on this mess. Meg.
This question, and I think this topic just in general, we're really hitting at something that is under discussed, which is a unique form of grief. And I have an entire chapter about this in Are You Mad at Me? I think it's chapter 3. And it's not just grief isn't just when someone passes away. It's also grieving what we didn't have. A mom that didn't protect us. A mom that prioritizes the dysfunction of a very dysregulated father figure. It could be any sort of relationship where we just have this gap, this hunger, this longing for something different. And I think Mother's Day is very triggering for that specific type of grief. So first of all, to this person, I want to just acknowledge and validate that realization of I really thought my mom protected me. And I idolized her for protecting me. And then as I got older, as I've become a mother, or as I have, just grown up, I've seen, actually by staying, she didn't protect me, or by prioritizing his dysfunction, she didn't protect me in the way that I needed. That is so real. I just think acknowledging and validating that is such an important first step. Another thing, just practically to sit with this type of grief is that little girl that didn't get protected by your mom from your dad is still within you and still scared, still nervous, still walking on eggshells, still wondering if everyone's mad at her or like if your dad is mad at you. And she still needs protecting now. And the difference is now you are the parent of her. You are the adult of her. And you get to take care of her in the way that she didn't get that care. What does that look like? What does that mean in relationship to your mom, in relationship to your dad? How does she need to be protected? What does that look like now? That's where I would start. Maureen, I'm curious if you have other
My
thoughts
question
or
to
questions.
you, Meg. Yeah, I do. I have a question. My question to you is this: I think this is such a third rail as a cultural discussion because it's just a given. You're supposed to love your mother. You're supposed to do what makes your mother happy. This writer, I feel, is she? I don't even think she realizes she's going to be grieving or is maybe in real grief. It's very difficult to grieve a mother who is still very much with us, but you have come to the realization she wasn't the mother I needed, I wanted, or I thought that I had.
Yeah.
And then what comes up after that is, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to be around my mother if she's going to give me an ultimatum, if she's not going to acknowledge my father was abusive and she didn't really protect me.
Yeah.
And she won't even apologize for it, let alone acknowledge it. And she hangs our relationship as conditional on me maintaining a relationship with my abuser. And I often feel I may be, assuming a little bit more than I should, but sometimes in these questions, I feel like the real one that hangs over it is, do I have permission to exit myself from this relationship, either temporarily, permanently, from time to time? What do you say to that, Meg?
Yeah, and that piece too of the fantasy, the pedestal that we put our parents on as children is really important. As kids, we idolize our parents because the world would feel too scary if we didn't. If we can't think of our parents as these amazing, or at least just one parent, in this case, perhaps it was your mom, for believing that she protected you.
Right.
Oh, she's this amazing protective figure. The world would feel way too scary if you couldn't have that fantasy. Because if she can't protect you, who will? Who's left to protect you? And so as we get older, that fantasy starts to dissolve, or they drop from the pedestal. It can feel very uncomfortable. It can feel very scary. What do I think of her now? Who is she now? How I'm rewriting this story or this belief that I thought I had of her. And so I think that reckoning is a very important initial process before grief, before acknowledging any emotion that's there. And then, yeah, to your point, the question then becomes, okay, if this is the reality of the relationship, what do I need to be okay in this relationship? What boundaries need to be put in place? If there is some conditional thing happening in this relationship, what do I need to be okay as my adult self? Because I know I'm no longer a child living in that home. I'm no longer needing to be protected by these dynamics. I'm an adult now. What do I need? That's always the first question.
And I also think, too, it's important to say to adult children who have survived childhood such as these, it's okay if your mother doesn't like it. It's okay if she doesn't like you pushing back or saying, I'm going to sit this year out, or maybe I'm just going to send some flowers, but I won't be visiting. I've got other things to do. And, often, this sort of psychological stranglehold can exist because that child within lives in fear of displeasing the mother.
That's right.
And I think that it's one of those things where you have to say to yourself, it is okay if she doesn't like it. Once you do that, so much of her power dissipates. Now we're on an even playing field.
Yeah. And I would even take it a step further to say, prepare yourself. She won't. She won't like it.
That's exactly right. She will not like it.
The reason is because if she was capable, and if any parent for any situation, we're broadening out here a little, but it applies to this specific listener. If the parent was capable of causing that harm, a lot of growth would have to happen for them to see what they did and take accountability for it. And to be, oh, honey, I totally understand. Thank you for setting that boundary. That's probably not going to happen.
So true.
So expect disappointment, expect agitation simply because you're breaking the familiar script. You're doing something new. Of course, it's going to cause some sort of friction.
It's actually a sign that you're doing something right for yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
That pushback is actually a sign. Okay, here's another one. Thank you for acknowledging that not everyone loves their mother. My mother was physically abusive, passive-aggressive, hypercritical, and downright mean to me. Not to the same extent with my two sisters. I was the only one who stood up to her as a teenager. Now, I am the one who has to be responsible for her. My older sister is across the country. I don't think that's an accident. My younger sister is an active alcoholic. I feel guilty if I don't go and see her for Mother's Day, Christmas, her birthday, etc. Meg, this is the key part. I get depressed for days at the thought of going there and sitting through her phony lovey-dovey act. She is in her late 80s, so I feel like I have to do it. I'm not sure which is worse, the guilt and shame of ignoring the events or giving up my inner peace and sitting through it. I think this is the question I mean to ask. Could you laser in, Meg, on the guilt and shame of and the phraseology here, ignoring the events? I don't necessarily think that's the framing you want, Troublemaker C. She says I can use her name, Troublemaker Cheryl from New Jersey. Meg, what is your advice?
Oh, beautiful question. Thank you for it. I think it's very resonant of there's this trope of being the good daughter. And I think that's unique to daughters. We are, as women, we have this guilt around everything we do, that we're never doing enough, that we're never pleasing enough. And I think it's really important to define here, what is guilt? Guilt says, I did something bad. I did something wrong. I'm doing something that is out of alignment with my morals or my values. And so if you are feeling, let's zoom out in this question. If you are feeling depressed for days, if by the thought of going 7 times a year or whatever the cadence is, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to go 3 times. That feels like a number that I'm not resentful about. Let's just hypothetically.
Right.
Are you doing something morally wrong with that? Is that a morally wrong thing that is happening? I don't think so. I think it's
I couldn't agree with you more.
Attuned thing. So I think we take our discomfort and we call it guilt because we're seeing it through the lens of deficiency. I'm never doing enough. But I don't think you're doing something wrong here by showing up in a way that allows you to do so sustainably. Because if we're,
Meg, if I could stop you there, I also think there's something very powerful in saying, you know what? I'm going to skip it this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe for this troublemaker, the number right now is 0.
Yeah.
Maybe right now she just needs to take care of herself. It's nobody's business who you do and don't see on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It's nobody's business what you did. I had someone say to me, how will I put this? You know, my mom, you and I were talking yesterday, both of our mothers have dementia.
Yep.
And so it's a very complicated Mother's Day when your mom is with us, but not with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an extended family member have the gall to ask me at a family event last year, how often do you see your mother? You know what my answer was internally? None of your motherfucking business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
No, it's so true. It's so complex. And it is no one's business, by the way. And I really want to hit something home, like to this listener, your body's talking to you here. It's very important that you listen. And I know there are a few questions maybe we'll get to of this showing up in the body as illness in some ways, which is 100% real. And just permission to do what your body is needing to do. And guess what? You can always change your mind. It's just that you're making a decision about this moment in time. You're not making a rule about the rest of her life and your life. And so my last point on this, I think, is it's not really, we're not being compassionate if we are showing up, but seething with resentment.
Yes.
That's not being a compassionate person, but being compassionate means being honest. Being honest of, if I go, I will be pissed off at you, at myself. My body will take the toll. Who is that for?
Exactly.
As opposed to maybe taking some space, regaining your strength, and going back if and when you decide, I want to. I'm going because I want to be going. That there's a difference there.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say as you know, a child of a difficult home, you know, I think a through line through all these questions, a commonality is being raised by perhaps a very selfish individual.
Yeah.
And I would encourage these troublemakers to reframe it as, well, what would my mother do? You know, my mother was selfish. She put her needs before mine when I was a child. I think that kind of structure can give you permission to go, you know what? I'm going to be selfish today. I'm going to be selfish, you know, just my thought. Okay. Now this one's great. What do you do, Meg, when you see your mother verbally and physically abuse your aging father? My mother has become increasingly rageful, and my father is the recipient. During Thanksgiving a few years ago, she got mad at my dad and physically pushed him in front of all of us. If this happened in public, what is going on behind closed doors? She is so stubborn. She will never admit that she is wrong or has a mental health issue. What does a daughter do?
Oh, well, let's just acknowledge that is such a hard position to be in. My therapist brain immediately goes to, of course, the more practical of elder abuse and when it's reporting elder abuse and There are systems and structures that exist in supporting you through that, and what to do and when to call someone when that is happening. So I just want to first name that those resources exist. I think the underlying question I think here is, tell me if you are pulling this out as well, I could be off, is
Mhm.
what can I do to fix this or change this in some way? Or can I change what she is doing? What are you pulling out as the
That's what I'm pulling out. She
yeah.
wants to protect her father. She literally says in here, I wish I could put crushed up Xanax in her coffee pot to help her. It's that bad. I mean, I think, adult children realize these people when they're in their 80s, they're not going to change. You're
Yeah.
not going to rehabilitate the mother or talk her down or anything. And then I think there's also a fear of, well, if you get the authorities involved, the situation could become even worse. Where are they
Yeah.
going to put the father?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so I think that she's really struggling to protect the father without further enraging the mother.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that safety planning, creating a safety plan for your father, that can look like a lot of different things. That can look like, how are you going to involve yourself if it escalates? Are there other people that you can call on so that you don't have to hold all of this by yourself, so that you can keep your father safe in these situations? And that, to go just that to that emotional level, it is so hard. Let's assume this isn't going to change.
Mhm,
Let's assume mom's not going to change. Let's assume this is going to continue.
mhm,
What needs to
mhm.
happen for you to feel like your father is safe and that you can sleep a little better at night? Without having much context about this person's life, it's hard to say what that looks like. But I think just safety planning in general is the most important and highest priority step here.
And Meg, what's interesting and sort of unspoken here is this clearly is the dynamic. The father is actively not looking to leave.
Yeah.
He seems not to be going to the daughter and saying, "Please help me get out. Can I come live with you? Can I go stay with somebody else for a little bit?" So I think part of it too has to be making your peace with the idea that
Yeah.
these are grown adults, that this is the dynamic of their relationship, sick though it may be,
Mm,
that people in abusive relationships often don't leave for
mm.
many reasons. And maybe you just have to let yourself say whatever you feel you need to say to your father to let him know that you are there for him, but that really you are extremely limited in what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be offering him a number to call, a resource to call, and saying, I'm, like you said, I'm here for you. Is it there? There's a tough dynamic happening here where you can't fix this. You can't change. You may not be able to change this,
Right.
but you can be there in a way while you're also taking care of your sanity at the same time.
I get pitched a lot of skincare products, and honestly, I turn most of them down. Before agreeing to talk to you about Tubes& Co., I looked closely at their ingredients and compared them with other clean brands that I've tried. The difference was obvious. Many formulas are mostly water, fillers, and unrecognizable additives. Tubes& Co. is different. They use real, nourishing ingredients that support skin. As you probably know, I pay close attention to what I use. And so I started with the glow serum. I was a little skeptical at first because past serums either really didn't do all that much or were a little concerning. I learned that most of them are water-based with minimal actives. Tubes, however, uses cold pressed oils and therapeutic essential oils. No fillers, no mystery chemicals or hormone disruptors, just ingredients that skin recognizes. So if you've struggled with irritation, breakouts, or imbalance, it's worth exploring. Sometimes the issue isn't your skin, but what you're putting on it. This shift changes how we should all look at skincare products. If you are ready to simplify your routine and actually feel good about what you're putting on your skin, head to tubesandco.com/nerve. They are offering Nerve listeners 25% off your first order. That's with code NERVE. tubesandco.com/nerve, code NERVE for 25% off your first order.